Hello people, we're talking about something fun today. How to start a business in 2023 using your creative identity to do so. And there's so many things to talk about, so much to talk about. So we're not gonna waste time, we're getting right to it. So, hello people, welcome back to my channel. I did a video on it, on how to find your creative identity. I think it was in 2021. There was a couple of things that I wanted to talk about and share again. So let's just dive in deep into it. I do believe when we talk about creative identity, it's something that is very much soulful, really self-centered, because it's how you see the world through your eyes and how you can serve people through your own natural skills and just building on it, right? There's nothing more magical for me to just help people discover their passions and then make it a business if it's something that they want to do. So when we talk about creativity and a business, it's just the perfect of both worlds, and not getting in the morning and really feeling tired and feel like you have no energy whatsoever to even start your day. For me, it's all about just getting up, started, even if it's hard, to just finding really exciting things to do, even when the worst can happen. I've never seen myself being creative like that. I always saw myself creating things, having passion about it, drawing, editing videos, and really enjoying the concept of creation. It was a lot for me, but then again, I do indeed discover that it was a way to connect with other people as well. And when we get to find our passion, to just feel more alive. And it's based also on a discussion that I had with one of my friends a couple of weeks ago, where we were talking about just finding passions, finding something creative to do. Even if it's not something you make a business out of, right? It could be just something you find fun of doing besides going to work. And he had an interesting question. For you to stand out, to be creative, is it necessary to leave your community or just get beyond what you know from your community, your culture, your traditions? Is it necessary for you to get out of it in order to stand out, in order to be more creative? Or you can do so within your own community. If you are Black, for example, and you from the Caribbean, there's a lot into the cultural tradition that you can bring to people in general to make them discover more about you, more about your story and how you say it. If you're African, it's the same thing. If you're European, it's the same thing. If you're American, it's the same thing. Asian is gonna be the same thing. And then again, even then, there's gonna be subcultures. So there's so many layers to being creative, and all of that just makes you feel and see the world a different type of way, and then connect with people through that, through your story and through what you see from it. So when you talk about creative identity, for me, it's that. So we're gonna talk about the IKIGAI way of finding your creative identity. You're gonna have a graphic here, and for me, it represents pretty well how you can see those layers actually playing out for you. And for everybody just being creative, we all have that in us, all of us. The Ikigai is pretty much a Japanese word described to know your reason for being. What is your purpose in life? What is your meaning in life? What are you here for at the end of the day? And the Ikigai way, the original Ikigai way before me, just doing it, using and copying and just find my own way of just describing the creative identity is a bit of it. In the center, you're gonna see the creative identity, and then you're gonna see the layers all just playing all together here. So we're gonna go a little bit into it. For those listening to me on the podcast, I'm gonna describe that. When you think about Ikigai, you're thinking about 4 different parts. For me, the creative identity is really based on 4 different parts. And then we're gonna see the connections and all those things that just make us being really much more creative when we play along with those layers. And the next episode, I'm gonna talk more about thinking outside of the box based on that, obviously. And then we're gonna find a way to just organize ideas and 3 major steps into discovering your purpose. So we're getting to the first part, the interesting fun part about passion. And we're going to talk about passion, natural skills, and the outside influence, and just the cultural part. And we start with the passion. We start it with something we like, something we just love doing for hours and hours and hours. Doesn't mean that we're good at it, it just means that we love it. It's not because you're going to love dancing that you're going to know how to dance naturally, right? There's going to be a lot more layers onto that. We're going to talk about it. I used to love dressing up when I was younger. It is something that you build up on, because I would remember my style growing up and I would see my style and really be proud of it. And now today, looking back at it, be like, no, there was a lot of things that I just didn't know about dressing up whatsoever. It was not the worst, but it was not the best. And even on top of that, I do believe that dressing up, which is a part of just looking the part, goes with just knowing your body the most. Rules just make you look a certain way, depending where you are and depending where you want to go. And I do believe in those rules. I do believe that there's going to be rules. I know we have this tendency, especially in North America, to live where you just look to feel good and you dress up to feel good. And it's important to dress up to feel good. I do believe that there needs to be a balance into looking good and feeling good, because sometimes you can feel good, but it's not gonna look the best on you. Not because you're gonna look ugly, but because your body can look better than that if you know what looks really good on you. Growing up, I didn't necessarily have the knowledge of what my body looked like and how I could actually enhance the beauty of it. But it was a passion of me to just like play around with dressing up, right? And look at my mom and just getting inspired by her, because I do believe that she's an elegant woman, very elegant, not necessarily super traditional, but something where she just mixes a lot of things that just makes her look appealing and just makes her look like a lady. I would say a woman, a lady. So I always really admire that from her. Growing up, you learn. So it's not a natural skill. It's something that you build up on. It's something that you do find a passion in. And something else that I used to do, it was obviously drawing. I talk a lot about drawing, drawing anime, drawing mangas, and I would spend hours and hours, endless hours on it. Gift my dad from some of that, and he really loved it. And if you have that kind of parent that just literally display all type of drawing in his office, I'm telling you, it was the best. It's like the best memories for me, because every time that I would go to his office, I would just find that and see that and be like, oh, that's me, I did it. I was so proud of me. Second layer to just being creative or just your identity in general is gonna be coming from the cultural background. Wherever you are, you have a story, and this story is a part of your community. Whatever happened, however happened, and how you do interpret it. I grew up in Cameroon, right? So not only I was African, but I kind of grew up around the traditions and the culture of my country. We has a lot of subcultures, and then the African culture altogether around the continent, because there's still some similarities. In Cameroon, for example, we love dancing. We have typical dances, and I have one for my tribe, which is the Bikutsi, that's how we call it. And there's those movements that you see your family do, your cousins do, and start doing them more and more, and it can be something that you just keep doing, and that's something that you can use and teach to other people that just don't know how to do it, and they feel fascinated by it. It's a part of your story, right? And whatever that is, you can teach other people, like learning the language of your country and teach other people from different countries. For me, particularly Japanese, I talk a lot about it as well. I'm obsessed with Japan, been obsessed since like growing up. Like even before talking, I was just obsessed. And I think it was through animes, through mangas and all that stuff. I'm obsessed. Very particular for me was just to learn the Japanese language. It gives a layer of the tradition, a layer of the culture. In Japanese, like any other language, to be honest, you're gonna have those little specificities. So I do believe that when it comes to culture, this is something that I really love. And being from Cameroon, there's the dance, there's the food, there's just the way of being. Something that I really loved about my culture is the respect for elders, and it's something that I didn't see much when I arrived in Canada, right? Where I saw a lot of people just talking to each other with no necessarily structure and not necessarily obvious respect. which is a good and a bad thing at the same time. It was very new to me, but I do believe it's an important aspect of it. Did love in the Asian culture was the respect for elders in Japan, and it was so similar to mine. And this is where you can see more similarities and differences between very different cultures that you feel like they have nothing in common. But when you dig deeper, we could have a lot in common. Just thinking about it now is the food. Because in Cameroon, you have a lot of like spicy things as well. You have a lot of traditional type of dishes, but there's that thing with just having the sweet and the salt a lot. Because if you know, like in the Black community in general, the plantains are a big part of the culture. It could be cooked a different type of way depending where you are, the Caribbean, African countries, and even I think in North America, combining the sweetness of the plantains with a lot of spicy or salty things. And I think it's something that I did discover in the Japanese cuisine and then in the Chinese cuisine as well. And I think it just made it easier for me to really enjoy some dishes that at first would be very different, but when you get to taste, you're just like, it's just similar. It's a part of it where you can just really see all the common points and make it something where it's an international type of thing that you're teaching to others, or you're just sharing it even within your community, because Black community, there's a lot of subcultures. So between Caribbean and African, there's still differences. So you can just share and really make it something where it's just unique. So it's another aspect of just being creative, is a layer of it. When it comes to natural skill, which is a third layer, it's something that just comes natural to you. Like you don't need to make a lot of effort for it. You would make effort because you're gonna study more into it, you're gonna research more into it, you're gonna analyze it, you're gonna learn more about it, but it is gonna come easy, you're gonna feel it come easy to you. And in my case, there was a lot with analyzing, a lot with listening to people, understanding people at that intuitive level. Thinking about my transition from being a content creator to a coach, creating content and understanding the depth of it, where you can use it to connect with other people at a much more deeper level and really make it something more valuable than anything else. But on top of it, it's something that I already had in me, but I didn't know that like that, right? It's when it comes to people talking to you, people seeing you, knowing you, being with you, understanding what you're made of, and it's a lot of things that maybe you are not aware of. So many discussions about just talking to people and just understanding people and just being curious, and I'm a curious beast. I'm so curious, and I do believe into when it comes to coaching, for example, analyzing things, the first step for me is to get curious. And that's why I talk a lot about just staying curious into many steps of being creative is the first thing. When you are close-minded, usually you don't explore that curiosity, you don't explore that what if, and really getting to know more with no judging, just understanding layers through layers through layers through layers. I'm easily gonna start asking questions just because I want to know. And when somebody brings something to me, trying to make me believe something, I'm naturally gonna come to the point of studying it, understanding it, learning more about it before even making any type of decision when it comes to it. So it's very interesting to see where you are good on those layers. Usually I always say to my people or people that I know, my friends, I'm like, it's not for me, it's for you, you know? Like, you're gonna feel comfortable because I'm not trying to get to know more just because I'm trying to judge you. I'm trying to know more because you feel like you want to say more. So if it's something that can help you feel better about it, go for it. I'm all ears. Say it. Say the words. Say everything, you know? Nothing can surprise me when it comes to that. Not a lot of things can surprise me in the point I'm like, oh my God, I'm shocked. I could be surprised and I'll be like, okay, well, how do you feel about it? What do you think about it? You're there to serve. You're not there to get any type of specific feedback. Let's say you just don't expect any specific outcome of it. So whatever the person can think about you, it's not about you. It's about them feeling a certain type of way and getting to a goal that they set for themselves, and you are just the bridge. You're just the mediator of it. And I do believe like when you work into service, serving people, coach and more, or even a content creator, you're there to be a mediator. All you gotta do sometimes is just to hold the space for it. And sometimes all you need to do is just to listen. You don't need to react sometimes, you know? And I have a thing where I could be the person to never react, or I could be the person to really react to a lot of things. It has to come easy to you to make it a natural skill. I could have been the person to ask way too many questions and not necessarily sometimes allow the moment of the silence for people to process their thoughts and then to talk to me. I learned it through being with my boyfriend, because he's a person really being good at holding space for people. He doesn't talk much. Really, he doesn't. He talks when it's necessary, which makes me think about my grandma. Same thing, where they just love not having to be the one talking the most. They listen and they observe, and they get to that intuitive level where everybody could feel, a lot of people could feel safe talking to them that way. So there's a thing where it's just natural for them. They don't force it. They just allow it, and they just are being like that. And when you get to build up on it, you just get to be better and better and really more intuitive and have that sharper mind, because you just keep working at it. So that is natural first. And the funny part of it is that when I got to university, I studied psychology. I just wanted to get into psychology to just understand. So the key word is just to understand. And next area is the outside influence. I do believe in the outside influence as being something that you've been exposed to for a while, but not necessarily something that you grew up with. It's something that you get to be in contact with some way after. And taking an example is me again growing up in Cameroon. I visited Europe for a good chunk of my life, and then I moved to North America. So that made me be exposed to so many layers of cultural differences, right? This is something where you can create so many good things from it, because it's up to you to interpret it. It's really up to you to choosing where you go with it. When I started watching mangas, animes, that opened the door for me to be more curious into the Japanese culture of it. And that's a choice that I made. A lot of people, right, started watching animes, really enjoyed watching anime and stopped right there. You know, it's not bad, but it's just to say that one little thing that is very different from you can just open the doors for a lot of things afterwards. And not only for me, it was drawing to the point of discovering the Japanese culture, to the point of being obsessed with the Japanese culture, but being in Europe in general just made me discover another type of style that I saw totally different from the North America, right? Because Europeans, especially in France, they have that laid back, the French look, like people would say. The French look is very much effortless, where you look really dressed up, but you don't feel like you just force yourself into looking dressed up. It's a way of living, almost, I would say. I already knew also a lot from United States, for example, and sometimes it was very different from what I used to see, because I would see a lot of things where the emphasis or just the point was just to show off the body. Everything to do with the French look, and then I got to combine it with the Japanese look. So having a Japanese look, kawaii girl, very cute, very feminine, very extra. When it comes to the Japanese look, where it's like very much eccentric, they can go any type of way, you can be very modest and you can be very crazy. Right? And I was a teenager, so I wanted the crazy, impactful look. And then you get to combine it with the European look, which is much more laid back. And then you get to North America, where it's like a little bit crazier, where you show off the body and all that stuff. You get to choose all of that. You get to combine it the way you want. And being exposed to that just opens the door for you to interpret it and to choose and to combine however you want to combine it. And again, the key is to stay curious and to stay open and to stay to just the idea of trying things, the idea of just being fascinated, right? To me, it's like being a little kid for the rest of your life. You get to be fascinated by just the differences without the judgment attached to it. It doesn't have to be for you, but you can be fascinated by it still, right? You don't need to travel all over the world to actually be exposed. Like I said, nowadays we have social media. You don't need to be in the country, but you can know a lot of things from different countries you're interested in just by being on social media, just by seeing how people actually do their things a little bit everywhere. Now we get into the combination. combination is really fun. To me, it's like where you get to top it off and really getting to be more creative. The first part for me is the passion and the natural skills. If you see me looking that way, it's because I'm looking at the graphic the same way you're looking at the graphic right now. The combination between the passion and natural skills gives you something where you can make a hobby out of it. When you get to combine it, you are really passionate about it, but you have multiple skills on which you can work on. All of those combinations for me could be a part of your purpose. When you get to the natural skills and the passion, you finding the sweet middle, at least one of those first steps to be creative and to really think about something that you're good at and something that you are passionate about. When it comes to just being passionate for the sake of being passionate, it's something where if you're not good at it, if you don't work at it, it's not gonna be something you're gonna keep for the long term. I can be really passionate about singing, right? But if I don't have that skill, natural skill, there's already things where I'm not gonna be so much motivated about doing. So you really need to look into what you're actually naturally good at and go from there. Those give an amplification that actually is a lot higher than somebody that's just gonna be passionate. So you can be passionate about singing and you actually can be singing and be good at it, but you're not gonna be a Mozart, for example. You're not gonna be the Beatles, for example, because it takes studies, it takes learning, it takes practicing, and for a lot, it takes that natural skills first. You're not necessarily good at it, it's gonna take you a lot more time to even get to the central and end point of it. I love drawing and I love editing videos. And now we're getting to the coaching. But something that I did realize is that I love drawing and I'm passionate about it. At some point I wanted to be a mangaka. My mom was like, nope, it doesn't pay the bills, so you're not doing it. I was like, okay, fine. I'm gonna stick to something else. I wanted to be a designer as well, but my mom was like, nope, doesn't pay the bills either. I need something serious. And then I found psychology. It makes sense. There's a lot of things that make sense. And I started editing videos, something that I already was doing for myself, but I then offered it as a service for people. So I got clients out of it. I love editing videos. I could spend hours and hours and hours. But something that I now starting to realize that I love editing videos and I know I'm good at it, but I do believe that what makes it very good for me, I'm really passionate about conveying emotions, conveying a message, understanding where you come from when you want to do a video, create a videos or create a content. What makes it really exciting for you and how I can help you and really serve you into creating the best content ever based on your story, understanding where you want to go and being the person that you want to be 5-10 years from now. I'm passionate about it. I could talk about mindset, right? I could talk about camera gear. I'm very excited about it. I'm very passionate about it. But when it comes to the mindset, when it comes to just talking about the thoughts, the feelings, the way you are, how you think, and where you want to go based on those thoughts, there's something else here. I can go for hours. And when you get to find the sweet middle into the passion and the natural skill, it's something that is so obvious to you that you don't even think about it. And sometimes it can even be scary for you because you're just like, it can't be that easy. I have one of my past clients, and she is great. She could be a great coach, but she is so scared of it because she doesn't feel like she has a story. She doesn't feel like she has the tools or just ways of just helping people. She feels like she needs more. Right? And sometimes it's just not even about it. It's a story that you make up for you to justify the fact to never do it, to start off. I did that for such a while. I was like, I'm not gonna be a good coach. I'm not gonna do it. But things that I was already doing was actually to coach people, even creating the content. I got to work with them through just helping them creating the content. So helping them on the thoughts, on creating those content, even if I was editing the content myself. Right? So you start really seeing the depth of just the layers of it, and it just start making sense for you. But sometimes it can take a while. So I do believe that combination being like one of the best, or just the first couple of steps for you to start really combining the best both worlds, where you can be good, you can be talented, and then you can be passionate about it. The second combination is the passion and the outside influence. It's something that I call being the creative intuition. Well, I was trying to find words here. I see that as something where you're getting out of your comfort zone to understand more of differences around you. Even when people are being so different, your passion of just being open, being curious, just keeps you at understanding, be open-minded without necessarily absorbing the influence of it. You still keep the non-attached way of understanding the world. For everyone out there, traveling, it would be the best way. When you get to travel somewhere, discover a country, it makes you, challenges you into your own thinking, your own thoughts, and how you see the world just changes, no matter what you do. And that gives you a skill to be able to connect a lot of different people together. And where we live today, it's something that I do believe is essential. And when you get to be creative like that, you can be a great mediator. Your art is gonna be a connecting point for a lot of people out there. Everywhere, no matter where they're coming from, they're gonna feel like it's their story. Even if it's your own unique, specific story. When you have that eye and openness, you can meet a lot of people in your story. And the point is not to try to get to have everybody listening or just understanding your story. For me, it's never the point. The point for me is just to share, to connect with people resonating with your story. But the outcome is not on you to decide. The outcome is on God to decide. It's an intuition. It's something when you get to be very great understanding because you've been through so many differences. You've been challenged through so many different levels. They open in to be like, okay, understand where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from, and use it as a bridging point. Getting to the next combo, which is combining your outside influence and then your cultural background. It's very similar to what I talked about before, because then you're starting blending different worlds all together. I feel like your passion with being exposed to so many different things is gonna open the door for you to be so much more curious because you've been exposed to so many things. And then when you get to add your cultural background, you get to compare, you get to be more into blending or keeping them separate. Usually, you gonna see everything from your background, your culture, your traditions, your way of doing it. And sometimes it helps you because it's a reference point. It was the first thing that you knew growing up. So you're never gonna separate yourself from it. But then when you start blending whatever you see and saw from the outer world, you get to really make it at a point where you innovate. You see things, but you see things any type of way. There's not one direction you can go when you have both of those words. You can go million ways. And sometimes when you get to stay in your community, in your cultures, in your traditions, it can keep you a little bit close-minded. I've experienced it from people never leaving countries like Cameroon, never leaving any other country, and knowing everything from those countries and those countries alone. I'm not saying you're gonna be unhappy for the rest of your life. No, and I'm not saying you're not gonna be creative. I'm just saying you're gonna be close-minded and you're gonna have everything based on your own way of seeing the world, which can work in your world, but when you get out, it doesn't work and you feel lost, confused, because of all those many differences. But now when you get exposed and you have the choice of having multiple worlds, cultural backgrounds, cultural points, like I said, you don't need to travel, talking to people coming from different countries, asking them questions, it gives you such a strong point into just bridging and doing things and creating things outside of the influence. When I think about, let's say, Afrofuturism, I think about it like that, because when you think about the Afro and then the futuristic world, you can think about the technology, you can think about everything that is innovative. And then when you think about Afro can be a really mix of a lot of African cultures, right? And you can even pick just one. It's like one of those best examples. I'm like, we can talk about Wakanda, something that is so futuristic and beautiful in a way, because you can honestly really play around with your mind and really being and just creating and add more of things that people can even think about. But more so, it's just a way of interpreting the world once again. And I see that kind of movie or that kind of story as a piece of art. Not because it's African, not because it's Black-centered, just because it's beautiful. Next part is the natural skills and then your cultural background, which is where you can be very good at serving people from your community. You don't need to go outside of your community to actually make an impact. If you're Black, African, Caribbean, North American, there's a lot of things that you want to work on within the community itself. It's not bad and it's not wrong. But if you make it a point, you just work at it. You make it a point of working at it and you just build a structure around it. And that is something that is still creative, but you're working within something you know, and that's something that you're still gonna be discovering. Because like I said, we're all different. We all have different stories, even if we feel like we do look the same, right? So you can really get to be the bridge within the subcultures, the sub-communities of it, be the voice of those communities, the subcultures. My issue sometimes is that when you get to be in the subcultures and the sub-communities and really uniting all those sub-communities by excluding other communities. And this is where I have the biggest problem on, right? Not everybody is doing it like that. The way I see the world, if I really had to be honest, is to see every community together. Because we do have differences, but we do have similarities. And when we get to be open-minded about it, we actually can have really great, impactful discussions. And not for everybody, not with everybody, but with people that actually are open-minded to the idea of it. I mean, it was useful. We really went around. I really thought about the IKIGAI Way, but it's just the sense of just being more creative. There's a lot of layers. My friend asking me this question of need of going outside of your community or staying within your community to actually stand out. I do believe the question is all about where you go and why you want to go there. We have different layers that, like I talked about, and it's really a direction that you gonna choose for yourself. I hope it was useful for you. If you have any question, how do you see creativity? How do you see creative identity? Did it actually make sense the way I explained it? Next part is gonna be all about ways of thinking outside of the box and 5 things that you can do. We're gonna talk about it next in some couple of next videos. I don't know when, but I know we're gonna be talking about it. So stay tuned. And if you listening to my podcast, definitely give it a review. And I'm available on Instagram as well. This is where I'm showing more of my daily life, right? Subscribe on YouTube and on Instagram, and I'm gonna see you soon. And like I say all the time, smile because it's free and contagious in a good way. Bye.